the Narrative Podcast. Today, I'm honored to host Ashley Nagel, founder of The Garden. Located in central Wisconsin, the Garden Community Center will be in the Artist and Fair building next to Oso's Brewing and the Mission Coffee House. Ashley, thank you for taking the time to share your journey with us.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here today.
Well, just wanted to say that looking back, I'm truly grateful that our paths have crossed a few years ago. Watching Ashley's journey has been both inspiring and insightful, and I can't wait to see the impact of her vision as it unfolds. Having known Ashley through community-based efforts in central Wisconsin, our shared passion for making an impact and our discussions on strategic growth have only deepened my admiration for her vision of community engagement. Today, we'll be exploring the relaunch of The Garden and its new partnership with Forward Beverage. Ashley, you've worn many hats over the years, from facilitating health and wellness events to event planning and coordination. When you first launched The Garden, what drew you to create a community space, and what lessons from these past experiences are you carrying into this next chapter?
The world needs connection more now than ever because connection is the core of what it means to be human. People feel isolated and disconnected due to busy schedules, society shifts, and the effects of spiritual warfare that's occurring in our nation. Without it, entire communities struggle to thrive and ultimately suffer from the consequences which impact physical, mental, and emotional health. Community gatherings provide a sense of belonging, a purpose that people are craving. Being in a rural area like central Wisconsin, there aren't as many opportunities for individuals or groups to gather in multi-purpose spaces where they can come for a variety of different interests, right? There's gyms where you can go for fitness. There's bars and restaurants that you can go to eat or drink, but there's not a lot of opportunity to gather in a safe space where you're focused on yourself and meeting other people. Personally, for myself, I've lived all over the nation. I'm born and raised in the Milwaukee area, but every single time I've moved to a new city, I had to refine community. And it was a challenge through researching online, showing up in person, those type of things, where the garden makes it easy for people to find community. My decision to get involved can motivate community members to do the same. Community change usually happens with one person taking action, and I'm that one person. So a couple of lessons that I'll be carrying from the first concept of the garden to our relaunch are: one, a strong mission that is anchored in every decision, from marketing to partnerships, leading with a purpose, not just profit, staying anchored on why. That will keep me resilient during the challenges, right? Every business owner, every entrepreneur has challenges. And then another lesson I'll be carrying with me is protecting my energy. Especially as a solopreneur, as you could imagine, burnout can quietly kill your vision and creativity. Prioritizing rest, boundaries, time for my own family and social endeavors, and sustainable practices is going to be definitely a key lesson I'll be carrying into the relaunch. And then finally, recognizing that taking a break doesn't mean you failed. We took a break, right? We took a 1.5-year break on the first iteration of the garden to where we're going now. It doesn't mean we failed. It just means we're refueled and ready to re-engage into a deeper mission and community impact.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing all that. In fact, that's a great segue into my next question. So, speaking of taking a break, you'd stepped away from the garden a couple years ago. What made you decide this is the right moment to bring the garden back to the community?
Yeah, there's a never ending need for community engagement and connection, point blank period, right? When we were in the midst of the pandemic, everybody was craving community and connection, right? And it's no different post-pandemic. The need for healthy, safe, and transformative spaces is key. Being able to partner with brands like Forward Beverage opens a door to more sober events for sober-minded and the sober-curious. Stepping back into community work is reining my own passions and reminding me what truly matters in this world, and it's community and connection.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. So the partnership with Forward Beverage Company is actually quite intriguing. Could you elaborate on its practical structure? Is it primarily focused on beverage offerings, co-hosted events, branding synergy, revenue sharing, or a broader strategic collaboration?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those who aren't familiar with what Forward Beverage Co. is, they are a non-alcoholic social beverage brand. They take pride in creating extraordinary non-alcoholic beverages that are made with passion and dedication. Their tagline is "Elevate every occasion with Forward Beverage Co." As someone who loves creating elevated experiences, this perked my interest. So I walked into the Ford Beverage Co. located in Wausau, Wisconsin, and I met with the owners and I was blown away. Not only just by their personality and so many commonalities, but just the way that they're passionate about their own products and that they made them themselves, which is really cool, especially, just 30 minutes away from where the garden's going to be located. I instantly fell in love with the mission and the owners. Their team works tirelessly to ensure that every sip and experience is worth savoring, is what they say, and sharing with others. They started with the simple idea of bringing interesting, great tasting beverages to market for anyone looking to take a break from booze for whatever reason. Therefore, by partnering with them, we're able to offer something different in the community, right? There's plenty of bars, coffee shops, breweries located all throughout the state, but there's not a lot of non alcoholic experiences. So when we're working with some of the nonprofit organizations or corporate or baby showers, even, right? They might not be interested in consuming alcoholic beverages. So being able to offer an in house option for them is going to be
Huh?
paramount. And providing these beverages can be consumed and purchased right at the garden, right? They don't have to go seek it out. We have it right there for them to try, sample, and take home. To allow our community to embark on experience within the walls of our space.
So, a big shift in your vision is making the garden a space that others can rent, whether for small workshops, mini fitness, wellness classes, or private events. How do you imagine that mix working? What types of experiences do you see filling the calendar in your first 3 to 6 months?
That's the fun part about the garden is that we're not just targeted to one certain category, right? We're not just targeted to moms or to dads or to the young or the old. We're a multi-purpose community space that is for every desire, right? So if it's a nonprofit fundraising event, that's something we want to fill the calendar within the first 3 to 6 months. Personal celebrations like a bridal shower, a baby shower, 50th wedding anniversary,
Uh-huh.
business retreats, meetings, and community-based classes.
Very cool. What size of groups or events are you looking to entertain?
So that's a really great question. So the fun thing about the garden footprint is we actually have a space called the studio, and that can hold up to about 50 people seated, where we'd like to have like meetings and gatherings in more of like that private space. And then we also have our common area where people can gather as well. So we can hold up to 150 people in the entire footprint. And then we can barricade between the two spaces. So if there's an event going on in the studio, other people can gather in the lounge area or vice versa. So we could have actually two events going on at the same time. We could keep the operation where people are enjoying the Ford beverage products and just coming and going while there's an event going on in the studio.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a great space. I think more people should really know about it. And as you reopen,
In
what's
addition
that?
to that, too, is the opportunity to take people outside of our walls, right? We can meet at the garden and then maybe we're doing a paddleboarding experience on Lake Pacwa, or we're going for a group bike ride or walk.
Yeah.
There's so many different, we could even come to businesses at their brick and mortar locations and offer similar services. So there's opportunities outside of our walls as well.
Yeah, I can think of so many different groups and organizations or businesses in our community that could really take advantage of what you're about to offer to them.
Absolutely. In organizations, let's say like Century Insurance or Delta Dental, some of the big corporations in our area, they have spaces already, but maybe
Right.
they want to go outside of their walls, do something different, have somebody else host their event instead of putting it on in their walls.
Yep. And I've heard just through the work that I've done and the places that I've worked that it's hard sometimes, especially during certain times of the year, to find an extra added space for meetings or things that they would be able to do in your space. Rental spaces are limited here, highly sought after, so you really have to book out ahead. So thank you for providing a space to give another option for those who are looking.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add to that is, again, being an event host. That's really what we're priding ourselves on. So we've had some experiences with the first iteration of the garden where we worked with the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point and we put together their retreat before the school year started. They have plenty of spaces at UWSP, but they
Hmm.
wanted to come into our space where it was private and they were able to be taken care of instead of having an event facilitated at the university. So there's lots of options.
Nice. I'm going to move on to the next question if you're okay with that.
Yeah, let's do
So,
it.
as you reopen, what early signs will tell you, yes, this is working? For example, is it consistent weekend bookings, repeat workshop hosts, steady class attendance, or something else? And then on the flip side, what signals would tell you it's time to tweak the model?
Well, since we've been through this one time before, I have a pretty good idea of what that's going to look like. So, some of the early signs that will tell that this is working, this is something that not only the community wants, but we're seeing that repeat business is by growing engagement and interest with the surplus of inquiries, right? Where we have to look for a variety of different dates for a particular organization because that particular date is already taken. So, that would be definitely an early sign of success. Obviously, repeat business with building strong partnerships with different businesses or different people within the community. Positive client reviews, right? We could have as many events that we could possibly have, but if we're not having that positive experience, we're not going
Mhm.
to be around for long. So, definitely having that positive client review and word of mouth, them sharing it with other people within the community. And then, of course, a renewed sense of purpose and excitement for the vision.
For sure.
And then
Absolutely.
yeah, some of the things that we would tweak early on um, would be one, prospects consistently hesitating or declining, right? They reach out to us, they come for a tour, and then they don't book an event. That would lead us to believe, like, okay, why aren't they booking an event? What aren't they seeing in the space?
Yep.
And then also customers that are unclear of what we offer. They just don't understand what the whole purpose of the space is. They don't understand why non-alcoholic, and then why it would help them, and then any difficulty in projecting future revenue because it's too unpredictable. Those would just be three things that we would need to tweak early on.
Do you think, considering it's non-alcoholic, do you think this is a new space that maybe high schools could utilize or even youth groups in the community? The
Yes,
YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, Big Brother, Big Sister.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Whether young or old, as I mentioned earlier, this is really a multi-purpose space for any group to come and gather and feel safe and not have to worry about fear of judgment or driving home or any of those things. And they
for
can
sure.
really thrive in their own lives.
No, thank you. And thank you for bringing that to our community because as we know that there's not a lot of that here and it's just really incredible to see that there's somebody with that heart and mind to bring that non-alcoholic space to Central Wisconsin.
Yeah, and absolutely, and being next to a coffee shop and a brewery is a blessing because for those individuals who may want to embark on those things that we don't offer, they can enjoy that before or after they come into our space. So it's not that we're, on our own island out middle of nowhere. There's a lot of different opportunities that they can embark on in addition to being at the garden.
Yes. So if we're shifting gears here a little bit, speaking about operations and team building, operational efficiency is critical, right? So since the model is partly about rentals, partly about classes, who do you need in your short list of collaborators or hires in your first 6 months? An event coordinator, class instructors, a community manager? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one thing that really excites me about the team is being able to have part time event hosts, which essentially would be interns from the university. We had one intern at the first go ahead with the garden, and it was incredible. And someone that I still talk to this day, we connect on a weekly basis and still share stories. But I was able to really mentor her in the small business space. So, community teaming up with interns and trading my knowledge as a small business owner can be very valuable to them. So definitely would love to have some interns in the space. Also, community members who have a class or workshop to instruct. Right? We've teamed up in the past with a woman who teaches healthy cooking classes or Pilates instructors, right? So the
Huh?
more people we can bring to the space that can share their own talents is going to be a benefit to the garden and just build our community in such a great way. And then my husband Jared and I would serve as the community managers, utilizing our strengths. So I'm very front of the house operations. I love to connect with people and build those relationships where Jared really does a great job of behind the scenes, doing a lot of the facility and maintenance type of issues that would come up with the garden. So that would be our team from the initial start point.
Nice. As you were speaking, I was thinking, even maybe reaching out to Midstate, they have a lot of continuing education courses that they don't host just on campus, but like Food and Farm Exploration hosts some of these. And then there's other locations throughout, the different counties that Midstate is in. maybe you could become one of those locations for them as well. I think that would be an incredible opportunity.
I love so much that you said that because not just with Midstate, but with other organizations that want a second location, whether it's, organization within a church, the church walls, and they want to hold a private, meeting space. A lot of those groups that we want to connect with. So definitely.
If you're okay with it, we talk about risk and contingencies. What are the primary risks that concern you regarding this relaunch? I mean, would it be cash flow, regulatory compliance of any sort, community adoption? And then what contingency plans or lean launch strategies are in place if the initial growth is maybe slower than you anticipated?
Absolutely. And since this is our second go around, I've thought a lot about the risks and contingency plans. So, the two biggest for a lot of businesses, but especially for us, especially for a startup, would be cash flow and community adoption, right? As passionate as I am about this mission, getting the communities to be on board and other organizations to walk alongside us is huge. And then, of course, the cash flow piece. Contingency plans is having that lean startup method. So, having interns on staff as these part time event hosts until we're able to prove that we're a viable business and hire people at an hourly rate. And then also, you know, teaming up with other organizations is another key piece. So that just takes, time, energy, and effort to discover who those people are, right? And
Yeah,
leaning on other businesses and other people in the community to learn what they need and what they want.
good plan. Final question for you. You ready? All
Okay.
right. So, if all goes according to plan, what is the ultimate vision for the garden? Do you see it as a local hub, scalable model for other communities, something else entirely? And also, what legacy do you aim to establish through the garden?
Okay, so this is my favorite question, I think, of them all, because, of course, as an entrepreneur and a visionary myself, I love to think big picture. So, in an ideal world, the garden to grow into communities throughout the state and eventually nationwide is the goal, right? With owners who are equally passionate about their community and the mission as I am, sparking vision in others, encouraging others to believe in their own potential and the collective good despite any life setbacks, right? Even if people aren't interested in opening up another garden, but they're inspired now from opening up their own business or to try something new because of
Mhm.
our experience. The legacy that I want to leave is creating spaces where people feel seen and valued. As I mentioned earlier, when I have traveled all over the nation and lived in some really great cities, I still go back to those cities and I go back to those businesses and I still have conversations with the business owners because that's where I found community, right? And I want the same thing for Central Wisconsin and people feeling valued behind a community relationship that's authentic, right? Where
Mhm.
they feel they can bring ideas and they can really shine, transform their own lives and thrive, and modeling what's possible, showing others that dreams can be turned into reality with courage, empowering others to thrive and transform their lives.
You were speaking to creating spaces or places where people are seen and valued, and I see you do that in your everyday life. So I it's super fitting that you would want to do that in your career path as well. So Ashley, thank you for your passion and your vision for the garden and the Central Wisconsin community. Your genuine authenticity and strategic vision are really truly appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest reason why I wanted to be on your podcast is because the name in itself was so intriguing to me and it's in alignment with what the garden is and what it stands for. And per definition, if you pop it up on the good old Chat GPT or Safari, is a narrative shift is actually a significant change in a story's direction, perspective, or focus that alters how the audience perceives the events and characters. I think that the shift is so much of what we embody with the garden. And I think there's just so many parallels there. And being a space where people are constantly evolving, just having that safe space and that home where they can go time and time again to connect with other community members, that can look different year after year after year, each and every single time that they walk into the space. You just never know who you're going to meet. So there's just so much inspiration to that. And I'm so glad that we could connect and work on the narrative shift for everybody in our community.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And that was really the thought behind me spending many hours on ChatGPT deciding what I wanted to call this. In fact, I did have ChatGPT roast me on how long it took me to pick up a name for my business. So, and that's
Love
truly what I want to do. I think that we're constantly shifting in life. You think that we have roadblocks and setbacks and pain points and all those things that go into both life and business. It's okay to stop, take a break, reassess, and shift our narrative into something better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the garden came from because when I think of a garden, right, is a place that grows and flourishes things, right? And sometimes things die. And those things can also be rebuilt. They can grow again. And so I just think that the garden has so many, reasons why cultivating soil and all those type of great things and being out in nature. It's just the garden too is just like a is peaceful, right? I'm in my backyard right now, and this is where I find my peace is
Yes,
in nature. There's always a reason behind a name. So I love that. And a passion behind the purpose.
that is. Well, thank you for being here today. I look forward to many more conversations with you, and I absolutely look forward to seeing your new space reimagined.
Thank you.
You're welcome.